loneliness. Man, it is. Let me rewind it back just for a bit so you can kind of understand how I've dealt with loneliness and what it feels like. It's a brutal feeling. If anybody's going through it, I understand. Um, I was 19 years old, and I used to be the kind of guy that wanted to be around friends as often as possible. It was something that I enjoyed and looked forward to. One day, must have been a Thursday evening, we go out to some kind of club slash bar. I drink one beer. Right? I have one beer, dancing for a bit. We leave the spot, and I'm with two of my buddies, and we get pulled over by the cops. And mind you, I was underage, so any limit above the limit um, was an infraction. And so, as soon as I got pulled over, they did those stupid little tests on me, and yeah, sure enough, it came back that I had some alcohol in my system. After like a few hours of that one beer, and yeah, I ended up getting a DUI, got my car towed, lost my license for an entire year, and that was really when everything sort of hit me. I was expecting that my friends would, I don't know, I would still be in touch with them or something, but as soon as that happened, I didn't hear from anybody. I didn't have a word. No one called me, nobody checked on me, and that's when I realized, like, oh man, like the feeling of loneliness really hit me. And I was a rookie, right? The emotion was new to me. It was a foreign feeling. I wasn't used to feeling lonely, and I immediately felt the dread, the angst of being unsure of what to do next. What was I supposed to do now that I didn't have anybody to talk to or hang out with? And then I realized, like, a lot of the people that were around me were just around me because I had a car. I was one of the few young people at the time that had a vehicle. And so that showed me that, well, maybe they weren't my friends as I thought they were, right? Or as close as I thought they were. Because nobody checked on me after that. And the blessing there, right? This is the blessing of this whole unfortunate event, was that I realized that I needed to do something to kind of fill the void, fill my time, because I wasn't hanging out with anybody anymore. I wasn't really going out anymore. I was just stuck inside. I was stuck at home. And I ended up just like picking up books. There used to be a website, I don't know if it's still there, on eBay, called half.com, and I used to get a bunch of books from there, and I was just reading avidly. And it was a way to escape my reality. I was just trying to imagine different places, and it ended up just helping me a lot. That part of it, right, was reading. And the interesting thing is, people talk about monk mode as if it's something that you have to do. I didn't have a choice. Monk mode found me in this case, right? And I think if anybody who's feeling that idea of loneliness, right, that feeling of loneliness, it's, you got to be able to separate that from yourself, because it is a new feeling, right? It's something that you're barely going through, so you don't know how to feel about it. But it is a true test of one's character. It does forge you as a man, as a person, even, to feel that feeling, right? That you were born by yourself, and you have to figure a way to deal with things on your own. I'm not saying that you can't rely on people, but you have to be able to rely on yourself first. I think that's the true test for any young person. It's a rite of passage, if you will, to deal with it, contend with that feeling, and let it gnaw at you for a bit. Anyhow, so that was a big part of it. But then also too, you have to also think about, aside from loneliness, you got to be able to feel like you can do things on your own. And so that was one of the first times I did that. And then after that, I would do it often, right? I would, for example, travel by myself, go out by myself, just do activities on my own. And every time I did that, there was a big difference between being alone versus the feeling of loneliness, right? And one of them was, the feeling of being alone and being okay with being alone is definitely not the same thing as the feeling of loneliness, because loneliness is, you're not looking forward to being alone, right? As opposed to being alone, you're okay with, with your own company. You don't feel the need, right? But you should use that as an opportunity to work on yourself and to figure out who you really are, or who you want to be, in fact, if you're not where you need to be. Because as a matter of fact, that was, it allowed me to kind of get into sort of a mode of introspection and figure out, well, what is it that I need to do differently And like I said, I tore into books. I read avidly. And that was one of the first times that I really had time to just kind of work on myself and not waste time trying to have fun all the time. Because I was misguided. I was unaware that I was getting older and I needed to mature and I needed to grow up. And if I had not perhaps gotten into trouble and lost my license, I don't know if I would have gotten to where I needed to get to when I needed to get there. And so it was definitely much needed, right? That solitude, that time away, the sort of retreat. And like I said, it was monk mode by default. It wasn't like I had to like watch a bunch of YouTube videos and then get into monk mode. It was just, I didn't have a choice. That was what it was. It was part of the learning process. So if you're in a position where you feel lonely, use it as an opportunity to work on yourself and to figure out what it is that you want or who you want to be, as opposed to just feeling sorry for yourself and thinking that you've been plagued by misfortune and that why could this happen to you? Why do you feel lonely? Because a lot of Gen Zers these days are crashing out. And I think part of it is that, right, is you don't know how to deal with these difficult emotions. You don't know how to sit in the saddle and handle the loss, the pain, the misfortune, maybe bad luck even. You got to be able to stomach those losses. And I think the younger generation is having a hard time with that because, well, there's no blueprint really. How do you deal with loneliness besides the fact that, I mean, you just every day you turn the page, if you will, you find a way to get through the day, with your own company, with your own thoughts, with your own mind, and you find a way. I mean, there's no other way about it. It's not an easy process. Everybody goes through their own sort of individualized um, process, if you will. So, anyhow, if you're feeling lonely, it's not something you should look at as misfortune. If anything, you should take it as an opportunity and run away with it. Because, like I said, looking back now, I'm kind of glad it happened. Yes, at the moment, I was pissed, I was angry, I was frustrated. But now I'm like, you know, if it ever happens again, I'm perfectly equipped to handle loneliness. It's not something I'm afraid of because I've already experienced it enough times that I can get away from it. I can get out of it, right? I'm not concerned with how it's going to make me feel. I'm not saying it's easy, but it is something that's manageable. Anyhow, so I hope this helps, and I'll see you in the next one.